What the f was Blizzard thinking bringing new items into a 20-year-old game? What, are they crazy? Patch 2.5 is live and breathing new life into this game, but have they really tested it in PvP? And more importantly, what does this clip have to do with Diablo 4?
When, or if I get to Loot Ghislaine, I'm gonna find the largest bowl of gnarlant weed and smoke till all earthly sense has left my body.
You're gonna want to subscribe, because I promise we're gonna tie that one in. It'll be well worth your time. We're gonna dive deep into some Diablo news today. Before we get into those stories, we have some breaking news from Mech Arena. As the sponsor of today's video, let's put these updates at the front of the queue. In case you didn't already know about this epic title, Mech Arena actually rewards you for having skill in the game, not for how much money you pay. Might be one of the only mobile games these days that actually does that. If you want to lay your lug nuts on the table, you can actually slay the best of them without spending a dime. All you gotta do is master the mobile strafe movement with your favorite mech. Soon enough, you'll find yourself stacking up scrap heaps of mech metal from players that used to be your friends. This month is huge for Mech Arena. They got a new Battle Pass season, plus a huge lineup of Oktoberfest events with some amazing prizes, including a new pilot, Boar. Quite possibly one of the biggest updates about this game is they're adding in controller support, which in a lot of players' opinions is the best way to play any third-person shooter, and it's especially helpful on mobile, bringing the experience to a whole new level for truly devoted players. This game is getting pretty big, and it's still completely free to play on Android and iOS. You can use my personal link to get a starter pack worth $25. In it, you'll get a Firelight skin, a Prodigy crate, and a Plasma Cannon 4 to help kickstart your game. All you gotta do is visit my link down in the description or use the QR code that's been floating around on screen. You can try your luck against yours truly in-game, but only if you're feeling froggy. Simply add me by using this ID. But don't get mad if I absolutely destroy you. I've had some practice in this game, and it's probably gonna take you minutes to catch up to my level. If you're not already familiar with this game, I would highly suggest checking it out. Be sure to log on today and let me know what your favorite Oktoberfest event is in Mech Arena. On to some Diablo 4 news. The Diablo 4 closed beta will be available for select Diablo players in November. If you've absolutely no-lifed any of these Diablo titles in recent history, you too could be invited to this highly exclusive beta. They're using game data to select players who have spent significant amounts of time in the end games of Diablo Immortal, D3, and of course, D2R. We're finally gonna get to understand what the D2 endgame is as defined by the devs. Are we talking about perpetual torch farmers here, or are we talking about the real endgame? PvP. And if so, I've got a couple of suggestions. Your game data may suggest that certain high-level players aren't able to find their way out of the first stage of Hell difficulty, the Blood Moor. But don't be fooled. That's one of the most difficult areas of the game. Here, you'll typically find some of the most savage players you've ever come across in 20 years. Elite, or Vampire in-game, has been the reigning defending DFC champion for months, setting his own records for the most amount of title defenses and best win-loss ratio in competitive D2R events. Try finding that in your in-game data. Additionally, this guy has made a complete joke of the 2.4 bone spirit damage, leading various players into a freight train of instant death. If that guy don't get an invite to this beta, PvP is dead. Blizzard released an article detailing what sorts of endgame events to expect from this beta. There's world events called Helltides, which can challenge players and reward them with Cinders, a new in-game currency that opens Helltide chests containing endgame gear and items. Nightmare dungeons allow players to increase the difficulty of select dungeons in Nightmare mode and rewards them with high-quality loot for their added troubles. Whispers of the Dead are basically bounties from the Tree of Whispers and provide experience, gold, and grim favors for players. We've even got Mephisto himself, who creates fields of hatred for PvP players to try to put some respect on their names. In these endgame events, you basically whoop someone's ass and steal all their seeds of hatred. We also got some more leaked gameplay of this title. This is not the leaked gameplay of that footage, as we all know what Blizzard does to that shit. But if you're really curious, you could do a simple YouTube search for Diablo 4 leaked footage, and as of right now, there's still quite a number of videos out there. They even used text-to-speech technology for some of the lines of certain NPCs. They either did that, or they're in desperate need of some voice acting talent over there at Blizzard. And if that's the case, then please accept this as my official application for the job. I've never been good at anything in my life, but I can certainly make sounds with my mouth. In fact, I'm no stranger to this field. I was immortalized in a Swords and Sandals game recently as an arena champion called the Chadiator. Seriously though, you can even select my vocals in this game to customize your character, and would you just listen to that range?
Damn! All right.
Hacks! What?
Oh, no!
Get him!
Don't lie, better than you expected. And have I ever told you, Blizzard, that Gheed is my spirit animal? You think I can't do the voice of a crass individual with questionable morals? Some would say I've got a lot of practice. Good day to you, partner. I'm Gheed, and I've got all the Danes in this Forsaken camp under my belt, if you know what I mean. I didn't peg you for that type of person, but Chaucy will peg you if that's your thing. She might have the voice of an angel, but she'll be the one hammering down on you. And don't get me started with Akara. All the duelers from the Bloodmoor kiss her daily, but only a select few have truly been inside her den of evil. Diablo 4's closed beta. Diablo 4's closed beta will have a sole focus on the endgame, and it appears as though that's going to be one of the big focuses to keeping the player base around for years to come. And if you haven't received an invite for this closed beta by November 18th, well then, you weren't cool enough to be invited. But don't worry, the open beta will begin early next year. On to some Diablo II Resurrected news. As many of you know, Diablo II developers changed the game forever, as seen in the PTR for patch 2.5. In this update, they added sundering charms to the game, which break monster immunities, making the game easier for sorceresses. There's probably some other classes that benefit from it too, but let's just be real for a minute and think about what's really going to drive the demand for these charms. These new charms can be found only in the new terrorized zones, and any monster that's immune to a certain element will have their resistances reduced to 95%, and they can be further ripped away by other equipment. The devs stated that this charm would not affect PvP, which made some avid PvP players extremely happy in the community.
PvP and PvM communities can give each other a big hug because this is going to make PvM a much better experience, but it will not affect the PvP community. So I think it's just the best of both worlds.
But did it really have no effect on PvP? Some players believe that that's not necessarily the case. While the Sundering Charm will have no effect on a player's resistances, pets summoned by that player will certainly have theirs ripped away. This can pose a particularly new challenge to characters that were used to summoning pets to defend themselves against certain builds. The Necromancer, for example, would use a fire golem to block deadly long-ranged fireball attacks from a sorceress. But now, not even this fireproof summon is safe. While some longtime duelers in the community feel some type of way about any change in that world, personally I don't think it's necessarily a bad one. Mainly because it only stifles necros and assassins. And if you've ever played against either one of those builds, you might be in the same boat. And what do you think? Blizzard just wings it over there at headquarters? You think they just put out a patch based on a suggestion made only days prior to the patch announcement? Well, then you're wrong if you think that.
What I do want to see become different is once you've obtained Infinity or Plague and you have a means of breaking monster res, it would be cool if you could break fire immunes in the Chaos Sanctuary with a Fireball Sorceress.
A lot of thought went into these things. Just look at them. And look, if you believe Blizzard's just winging it over here, then you can stay out of the new area that they're bringing into the game, okay? You just leave it for me. We're also getting a new area in Act 4 called the City of the Demed. Any reasonable person would probably assume that this is a dungeon located somewhere in the City of the Damned. Oh, you thought this was a simple typo? Well, then why'd they do it twice? Looks like they're finally finishing Act 4, boys, and we should be happy about that. In all seriousness, I think these charms are a cool change. Immunities were added to the original game in patch 1.10, and that's because everybody was farming with a sorceress. But this was also the same time that they brought in new rune words such as Infinity and new mechanics, synergies as well. So the sorceress was unfortunately the main class punished by the immunity changes, although some other classes did suffer a little bit as well. And just today, we got the final release of this patch, and it is now live in Diablo II Resurrected. Let's hope everything's spelled correctly, at least. So here are some of the most notable changes from what we've been talking about in this actual patch. They did make terror zones easier to find, however. You'll now see this new graphic highlighting the waypoint that is closest to the terror zone that's currently active. They fixed City of the Demed. I was really hoping for a new area too, man. God damn. As you already know, Ladder Season 2 will begin on October 6th. But some of you might have been wondering what's going to be happening with all of your items in your ladder stash. Once Ladder Season ends, you'll be able to check a box in the top right corner of your stash that says Passed. When you do, you'll see your ladder shared stash tabs, but you'll only be able to withdraw from these stash tabs. You're not able to put anything into them. But you better make sure to take these out before the end of Ladder Season 2. Or these will be overridden. Not overwritten, overridden. All right, we're gonna scroll down to these Sunder charms and see what's really going on. Dabrunsky just did a video about making a range with the resistances that roll on them. Let's see if they, let's see what happens. Oh my God, it's there. Look at that. Holy hell. Let's get Dabrunsky. New developer of D2. I gotta say, not really a bad suggestion at all, though. Dabrunsky, thank you for being at the butt of so many jokes unwillingly or unknowingly before this video came out. You're a good dude. They say in the developer note by this, we have heard much from the community's thoughts on how the new Sunder charms work with the sorceress's cold mastery ability. They go on to say that it's not necessarily different than players that use infinity or other items that rip resistances away and doesn't need to change at this time. Except that in PvP, it makes you have to absolutely change your whole fucking build for one character, and then you have to implement stack rules and all of this stuff. It's kind of been a pain in the ass for years, and it would be great if it just worked like all the other masteries for the sorceress, really. But another thing fans have been asking for a long time, you might have noticed at the bottom of this patch update. The D2 devs are focusing in on modding and allowing players to do this in offline mode. It still appears to be for single player with no immediate plans to make it so that players can LAN together or connect through some other remote server. The days of us seeing a PD2 adapted D2R are probably on the far distant horizon, if they're even there at all. But this is definitely a step in the right direction for players that like to make their own versions of this game. Arguably something that's kept the game alive for so long. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see how the meta shifts around these new features. And that's the news from Sanctuary and beyond. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you made it this far, and subscribe if you like this kind of content. And if you don't, fuck you, Bob.